All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Math Puzzle Crash Course. Wanted to cover a really quick topic here. One that's kind of maybe got on my nerves a little bit lately, but it just has to do with some misunderstandings that I've been seeing a lot with the acronyms BODMAS, PEMDAS. There are some other ones. That are used out there. There's BIDMAS and BEDMAS. They all really represent the same order of operations, but I'm really wanting to concentrate on these two a lot. I know BODMAS is used a lot in Europe, used a lot in the UK. I'm not sure where all in the world that's used, but and then PEMDAS is used a lot in North America, in the United States. But again, these two really represent the same order of operations. But there's a lot of confusion surrounding the acronyms. Matter of fact, I really don't even like to learn order of operations using the acronyms. They're kind of a memorization tool more than anything. But BODMAS is most often represented as, first of all, brackets. Orders would be the second one. I'm going to get onto this one in a bit. And then division and multiplication, keeping in mind, and this is another source of misunderstanding, division and multiplication have equal precedence. Division is really the same operation as multiplication. You're just multiplying by a reciprocal, basically. So you're just really solving them left to right. There's not, you don't do one before the other. Multiplication isn't before division, or division's not before multiplication. Now, I will list an exception to that. Although this is generally universal, I believe in Kenya they actually have taught division has precedence over multiplication. But if you go through enough problems and you solve them using that methodology and the order of operations where you look at, you just do them left to right, you're still going to get the same answer. Now, it's not true if you try to prioritize multiplication first over division. It won't work out. So I guess if you're comparing acronyms in that sense, BODMAS is maybe a better one than PEMDAS. At least if you're going to misunderstand them, if you misunderstand BODMAS, you maybe have a better chance. I guess that's kind of a bad way to look at it, but there may be some truth to that. Um, but again, we'll get into that a little bit more. At number four, addition and subtraction. Again, addition and subtraction have equal precedence. Subtraction is just adding a negative number, so there's no difference. You don't, with addition and subtraction, it doesn't matter if you subtract first or add first, honestly. And the whole left to right thing is pretty much meaningless with addition and subtraction. Now, some people will be arguing about that, but the problem that they have is they don't understand how to associate the signs in front of numbers. What they're doing is they're actually, moving a negative sign that might be in front of a 5 or some other number, and they're moving it to a different number. Well, of course, that's not right. You can't do that. So, again, addition and subtraction, you can really do them in any order. They're the same thing. And so if you're getting different answers, depending on which one you're doing first, that's telling me that you're doing it wrong. So that's really not a good answer. Um, One of the things that really is a pet peeve of mine is when I see people ask, like, what does BODMAS mean, or list the steps of BODMAS. I keep seeing people taking the O component and saying, brackets of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, or I'll say, some people say off. Okay, and I don't know where this of or off thing really got started. It's honestly a terrible, terrible representation. Um, I don't know where that came from. It could be it could be something like powers of. Maybe they're taking the O from of. I don't know. It doesn't really describe anything. Of or off are meaningless descriptions. Orders is kind of a general term that is really referring to things like exponents, where you've got a number raised to another number, raised to an exponent, like 5 to the third power. You have square roots, you have factorials. Orders really includes all of those things. So they all have a higher priority than, say, straight multiplication or division. Um, but yeah, I mean, if someone can explain why people are using of or where that got started, I would love to know. I know plenty of people over in the UK that are they don't like that representation either, and I'm not really sure where that got started. But if you're going to say of or off, I would really love to see what you're trying to describe by that. It's not very clear. Now, PEMDAS is a different acronym that's used a lot here in the United States. It still represents the same order of operations. It's parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. And once again, just because the M is listed before the D, that doesn't mean anything. The M and the D, multiplication, division, are still considered to have equal precedence. Same thing with addition and subtraction. They're a lower priority than multiplication and division, but again, it doesn't matter what order you do them in. Addition and subtraction are basically the same level. They're the same operation. Again, subtraction is just the addition of a negative number. No big deal. Now, I will say exponents does not really tell the whole story here either. Exponents is kind of specific. When I think of an exponent, I'm thinking of something like this, where you have 5 to the third power, which is the same thing as 5 times 5, which is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. It's basically, exponents are another, again, like a shorthand for repeated multiplication. But it doesn't tell the whole story because you still have factorials, where you have, like, say, 5 factorial right here is basically 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Well, of course, the factorial is also like it's a shorthand representation for repeated multiplication, except instead of an exponent, where you're just multiplying the same number over and over. A factorial, you start at, in this case, you start at 5 and you work down. But it's still a shorthand, so it still has priority over regular multiplication. And of course, you've got square roots. Square roots are also considered at the same level. So, like, the square root of 4 is 2. So, in PEMDAS, when you use exponents for e, yeah, it doesn't really tell the whole story. You got factorial, square roots, and so on. They're all at that level. Um, you know, so I think it's actually better really to remember the relationship between mathematical operations than, to memorize the acronyms, because the acronyms really lead to a lot of confusion. A lot of people think they're a six-step checklist instead of, representing just the four steps of order of operations. You have mnemonics like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which, okay, but you need to know the context behind all that. Otherwise, it doesn't help you to memorize the order of six letters. Um, I really prefer to look at it like, parentheses and brackets are just grouping symbols. They're not a mathematical operation. You don't take 4 bracket 7. Well, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything, really. Um, I mean, well, okay, we're not going to get into implicit multiplication, but basically what I'm trying to say is that the brackets and parentheses are just grouping symbols. What they tell us to do is they tell us to prioritize everything in between them according to the order of operations. So, we want to prioritize that. But there's really just three operational steps to the order of operations. You have your orders, which, yes, in PEMDAS it's referred to exponents. But again, that also includes factorial, square roots, things like that. And then your second step, so you have the orders. Your second step is your multiplication and division. And again, you just do those left to right in the order that you see them. So if you go left to right and the division is first, do that first. If you're going left to right and multiplication's first, do that first. The third step is your addition and subtraction. So again, grouping symbols, and then you have three operational steps after that. I actually kind of prefer this method. I tried to redraw this. I've seen it represented in some similar ways to this. This is a little better representation, I think. You've got, your exponents and again, your exponents and orders can be looked at as shorthand for repeated multiplication. But this is kind of a um, a way of prioritizing or showing the priority here. You've up at the top, we have our grouping symbols. Now I use parentheses. Could have drawn these out as brackets, no big deal. Um, they're just grouping symbols at the top. But you have three levels below that, which are your operational steps. And here I showed an example of, say, an exponent. 5 to the third power. I could have put a square root in here or, factorial. That's all at this level. So your first operational step would be your orders or exponents or your factorials, square roots. Your next level below that, you've got your multiplication and division. And again, it doesn't matter what order I drew these in. I could have put the division sign first, the multiplication sign after that. Doesn't matter. And then the bottom level here is your addition and subtraction. And again, it doesn't matter the order. I'm hoping that this description has been helpful. And I've got some other videos. I think we're up to like 180 some total videos. I'm not sure if that includes the not the reels or the little YouTube shorts. I forget what they're called. I think Facebook is the reels. I get confused on some of the terminology myself. So, anyhow, I appreciate if you've made it this far through. I hope this video has been helpful to some people out there. And again, if someone can explain where they learned of or off in BODMAS, I'd love to hear the explanation of that and where that's coming from, because it's really not clear. And I've yet to have somebody really explain that to me. But anyhow, I hope this has been helpful. I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video and have a great day.